Hey, it's 2003. We make jokes about browser caches. Okay. Okay, hey, welcome back, everybody. Okay, so we, oops, where are we at here? We're at week 3. Okay, so we saw some pair programming with me and David. Now it's your turn to do pair programming. So we have selected a kata for you, the first kata, which is called FizzBuzz. So imagine the scene. You're 11 years old, and in the 5 minutes before the end of the lesson, your maths teacher, because in the rest of the world they pluralize math apparently, decides he should make the class more fun by introducing a game. He explains that he's going to point at each pupil and in turn ask them to say the next number in sequence, starting from 1. The fun part is that if the number is divisible by 3, you instead say fizz. If it's divisible by 5, you say buzz. And so you go around the room, say, 1, 2, fizz, 4, buzz, until he very deliberately points at you, fixing you with a steely gaze. Time stands still. Your mouth dries up. Your palms become sweatier and sweatier until you finally manage to croak, fizz! Doom is avoided and the pointing finger moves on. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. So what I'd like you to do for your coding kata today is this one. So write a simple Java program, or a Java program, I don't know if it's simple or not, that basically given a number returns the appropriate string, fizz, buzz, and then you can also, for bonus points, say that if a number has both divisible by 3 and 5, print fizz, buzz. And so here's some sample output. I'd like you to do it in pairs. And so I think we've got enough people with laptops. Looks like there are all of them. So if you don't have a laptop, find someone who does. And please feel free to grab one of these USB keyboards and mice, plug them in. Anyway, and so great experiment here. Actually, it might need 2 USB ports. And that might be a problem. But anyway, so, and also to get started, you can, okay, I guess here's the thing. You can run the Maven Archetype, like kind of like what Dave and I did, right? Start with the Maven Archetype, that'll give you your environment. And I guess either you can do, you can use the USB keyboards, there's actually one keyboard, or if you want, you can use what Dave and I did, try to go through GitHub. If you're experienced with GitHub, you might want to try it. If you're maybe feeling a little unsure about GitHub, try it with the keyboard and see how it works. And so let's do that for half an hour, and then we will check in, use the Google Hangout to share our screens, and you guys can tell us about your experience or where you've gotten with the code. Okay? And Dave and I will be here sort of roaming around helping people out. So I'm going to pause the recording, and let's go. Okay, we're back. Let's take stock of where we are. So let's all pause for a second. Put down the keyboard. Step away from the computer. And I want to talk about sort of what we've done. So can everybody join the Google Hangout? Or can at least some people who if there's anybody who wants to share what they've done, what they've learned, join the Google Hangout and share your desktop. Who wants to talk about what they've done? Someone raise your hand, otherwise it'll be boring. What? So yeah, you guys join the Hangouts. You want us to actually? Please. It's me. I'm huge. There we go. You guys got yours. Chatting.
All right, so we'll share our screen. That's very concentrated. Let's see. Maybe? Okay. Is it still showing our screen or no?
Not yet. Doesn't look like it's flown in yet.
Hold on, let's see if we can do this. No? Fail. Screen share.
Oh, is it because
Fizz buzz. Oh, I think. There we go.
Awesome. Okay. Is that reasonable enough? Otherwise, we can come up here and talk about it. But actually, yeah, would you mind bringing the laptop up here? And we'll just plug you in. We'll be able to see it better and also record better. Okay, thanks. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Is that legible or no? Is it even doing? It's not even the right desktop. Oh, okay, true. I don't know if it works.
Looks okay up there, I guess.
Yeah, it looks good up there, yeah. Okay. There we go.
All right.
That's good.
So we're in the middle of doing one of our tests, but we'll go ahead and look at the first test that we ran. So the first one we ran was invoking main with no arguments and expecting the exit code of 0. So we went ahead and ran that test, and you can see if we do a run on that, it should give us the pass. Oh, we tried to add some stuff in here last minute. Can you comment that out real quick? There we go. Let's try that again. Invoke main with no arguments. Alright, so that one passes. The next one that we did is checking what would happen if we're just printing from 1 to 100, not worrying about whether we're doing the fizz or the buzz on the 3 or the 5. And so we were in the middle of doing our next test, which was, okay, so then we did the prints for, returns for, and made sure that we could call a single function, passing in an integer and making sure that we got back the expected string. And then that one passed. And then the next one that we began to work on was the print 3 returns fizz. So again, we call the fizz buzz converter, passing it the argument of 3 as the int, and expect to get the fizz. Basically where we stopped at is we realized we had a small flaw in the way that we were doing our logic, such that we had an if, and then it said like else sb.append num.toString. And so then what that was doing is if it was divisible by 5, it would say buzz and then also the number. So we were going back to refactor and correct the logic such that if the number wasn't divisible or wasn't divisible by 3 and wasn't also divisible by 5, then it would just do the sb.append num.toString, which you can maybe even see why it doesn't quite. Maybe it's because it's trying to apply it to that specific thing. And then we can try running that test and see if it works. Okay, so that was this one here. Right, and then we say run. Okay, cool. So we were able to get that up and running now properly. So then our next step was to basically then probably look at doing the number 15 to see how it would handle both divisible by 3 and 5.
Yeah. Good question. Kind of went down a rabbit hole with our first, second test case that we did. We can go back to the first test. Oh, you're on. Yeah. So the print numbers from 1 to 100. We were trying to create a function. We wanted to create a function that generated this from 1 to 100. and then we wanted to create that function in the program as well. And then we're like, well, let's just use the same function, but it's like you're not really testing it. So
Yeah.
I felt like that was a little bit of a rabbit hole. How do you, are you writing the same function twice? Or what are we doing?
Nothing.
I've got no, plenty wrong. Shame. No. I've got something to say about that. What do you, I want to open with you guys first. So, what do you think? It's like, they've got, hey, I've got all this output I want to test, and so I have this function that outputs all that out that stuff. And actually, so does your get numbers from 1 to 100? Is that what your main class does?
Yes, at this point.
Yeah. So, what do you think about that? Is it a good test? Is it?
So I think that's what we originally did, was we wrote the function in our test. And we're like, well, this is basically the same function we want in the program. So we copy and pasted it into the program, but then we're testing the program with the exact same function that's in the test. So we were like, let's just combine that.
But you are testing at least that when you invoke, in this case, when we invoke the main function, that what it outputs is just that function output. So you are testing something.
Yeah, I think yes, because when calling main basically does the same, get numbers from 1 to 100. You're calling that. You're basically comparing the output of that method to itself, and so it's probably not the best test. But like as you guys asked me about, and as I sort of admitted, the TDD that I did in like the first 2 weeks by testing at this invoke main level might have led you guys astray. Oh yeah, thank you. Please adjust the shades. Anyway, just imagine if I hadn't gotten the tan, how much how much more glare there would be. The invoke main, I think the more that I think about it, it's not a really great example of unit testing because as he was saying, it's not the unit that you're testing. Like the unit is like the method in your class. So like in the student, what I should have been testing was like creating a new student object and invoking the says method, or sorry, invoking the toString method and testing it that way. So I think like in your subsequent tests, like print 4 returns 4 and print 3 returns fizz, I think those are better unit tests in that, yeah, you're testing the individual unit. So I think starting there. So then it's like, okay, maybe you have unit tests that give you confidence that like, okay, I've got all the pieces parts working. Now you need like a bigger test, and that's what's called like it's called an integration test. Oh, it's like broken. Yeah. Pay your tuition. Okay. Let them fix the. That sucks. Sorry. Yeah. Maybe we need to move up a row or something where there's not so much sunshine. Right. So you have all the units, and then what you want to have is like the bigger test, more of an integration test, because you're calling multiple methods, you're doing lots of pieces of functionality. That's probably when you'd want to use the invoke main. And in this case, I don't know. Probably the proper a very proper test would be like they're in your. Oh well, I don't know. Because I was going to say, you could just, you might have to just duplicate here's the expected output, and it's 1, 2, 3, you could do it that way. That would kind of be an ugly test to write and read.
Well, this kind of large, integration test
Yeah.
on a higher level, it's going to break as soon as we start applying physical logic anyhow.
Yep.
It's not going to be.
It's a little fragile.
Actually,
yeah.
in our case, I think it might be okay because of the way that we're going to pass in the ints each time. So it'll correct as.
Cool. I had a couple pieces of feedback. I'm just curious if you look at the prints, the 4 returns 4 and print 3 returns fizz. In the first one you use contain string, and the second one you use equal to. Yeah, I was curious about it.
Because of the error in our logic, we were trying to zero in on. We realized maybe it was containing fizz and buzz and the number. So then we wanted to be more specific in what we were testing.
Okay.
So that it was more precise and so that we weren't
So I think it is fair though to do that.
I think that is more because what if calling fizzbuzz converted with 4 return 44, right? It would pass even though that's probably not what you want.
Yeah, I think it was part of it was using our previous knowledge of and then being like, oh wait, there's a way to say it's exactly equal to.
Nice. Okay. You guys have any more questions for these guys? No? Thank you very much. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Bravo. Who else would like to maybe get out of the sun and come up here and show us what you've done? That rhymes. Welcome to Poetry 101. You're a poetry? No, bad poetry. Come on, someone else. Oh, come on. Yeah, you guys shared your desktop and everything like that? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, don't worry. No, let's just see what we got. Maybe we can, if you've got some questions or something, yeah. So Tyler, how about you stop sharing your desktop? Robert, why don't you come on up? We can plug you in. No, trust me, it'll look much better because there's a super lag on here. What? Oh. Pay your tuition so we can afford HDMI. No, we only have VGA. Okay. Okay, then share your desktop and we'll look ugly. That's okay. There you go. Is there enough contrast there? It's kind of hard to read. Yeah, sorry about that sun, guys. That's Oh, there you go. That's mildly better. A little bit. I am in full screen of this resolution. This is go in full screen. Yeah, I'll give you a little bit more. Yeah, no, that's cool. What is it? Oh yeah, right. There you go.
Alrighty, so we sort of focus on taking some smaller baby steps for the first part of the reason why we didn't get quite as strong. Like our first test was
I think you might be muted. How about you unmute? So it'll come through on the recording. Oh no, actually, it's unmute through. No, probably from the Hangouts. Oh, there you go. I think you're good. Yeah, you're good now. Go for it.
Hello, Internet. All right. So yeah, first off, we just started, can we invoke main? Okay, yes, we can. And then we started thinking, how are we going to test this? We decided to do it as its own function that would return a string containing the answer. And so then we saw, can we invoke this now? And we got that. And then first off, we decided to see, okay, well, can we return a string with something actually in it, like 1? So again, we did that. We went in, we just did a very dumb, it just, would return a string containing the number 1. That's all the function did, so on and so forth. And then that was the extent to which we coded, but we started talking about how we would go on from there because there was a little bit of discussion going on with that.
We also did a refactor.
Oh yeah, we also did a refactoring, like our original test to see if we could just invoke the function that would return the string. That was essentially the first line in can prints 1. So we just cut out that test entirely because anything that would mess with that would be caught by the next test. And then the test we planned to do next was, can you print 1 to 100, where we would, and the way we were thinking we would do this would be we would we would write a for loop in the function that would return it, and then we would just see if it started with the prefix of 1 and the suffix of 100. And my argument for doing it like that was that a for loop is so simple, and that would require so few lines of code that it would be reasonable to look at the code and say, if I know that this starts with 1 and ends with 100, it will hit every number in between.
before we actually did any converting from like the
Yeah.
threes to fizz.
Yeah, we
okay.
did not even get to converting fizz and buzz. No, we were just testing to see can we print out 1 to 100.
Okay, and so I'm having problems visualizing what that test looks like. Can you maybe write a little bit of code to show what it looks like?
Or we can give that a shot.
To put you on the spot. Yeah.
Print. There we go. Print fizz buzz. Okay, and forgive me if. And so, insert that. So let's see. I'm trying to remember how to do prefixes and suffixes with strings. Results.
There's a starts with and an ends with.
Oh yeah, starts with. There we go. So string prefix. 1. Oh.
Which one?
There we go. I'm already seeing one thing. We will have to change the test above this one to just starts with. But
So that assert right there is the assert keyword, which is probably not the assert that you're looking for.
It's
Okay.
assert.
So you can use assert that, and then your starts with 1, comma like is true or something like that, or you can just use assert true, which is like the JUnit, the old kind of old school, but it works. So I think you need to say is true.
Is true.
So there's a function called is. Yep. No, it is. And then passing. Yep.
Yeah.
And then static import that is.
Yeah.
so is.
You said we can actually just change this to assert
Yeah,
true.
you can do that too.
Oh,
Let's
assert
try
true.
it.
That'll work also. And then get rid of that
You
is
can get rid of
stuff.
this second argument.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
And
You need to static import that assert true. So alt
So
equal or alt return.
alt enter?
Yeah.
Alt enter. No, alt enter. Hold on.
alt.
Static.
Oh, assert true.
That one's fine.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. So yeah, just try that much and see how it goes.
Assert
And then the result that ends with.
dot. All right.
Okay, so that's okay. So
And
run it
so-
and let's see what happens.
I can tell you right now it's going to fail because we haven't written that part of the
Awesome! It's red! Exactly what you should have. It did fail in the way that you expected.
Assertion error. Convert 1 to 100.
6. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. So yeah, it starts with 1, but it doesn't end with 1.
Okay. So here let's compare and contrast the strategy that they're taking to the strategy that the other group took. What do you think? Pros, cons, things that will work, good, bad.
Separate insert that like calls and different implemented instead of having multiple
So yeah, I mean, so you're saying so instead of having one test with 2 asserts, have 2 tests, each with 1 assert. Why? So what are the pros and cons there?
I think that if you modify your code, I mean, this is more in general, you can make sure that it works without having to modify that function specifically. Maybe that's the problem.
You know, and that's something that the TD guys talk about. That in many cases, it's better to have like a very targeted test. So even if like you end up doing the same sort of setup, calling print fizzbuzz in 2 different tests, and there's a difference in the assert. That way, if something fails, well, I guess there are a couple of things there. They're independent. So, like for instance, if the assertion on line 35 fails in this method, the assertion on line 36 will never get tested. So you don't know whether or not that the assertion on line 36 is true or false. So I guess that might be an advantage of having two. But yep.
No, just another problem I'm noticing just looking at it. No, it probably shouldn't be called print physbus because it doesn't actually print. It returns a string. It should be called something like return physbus.
Okay, cool. How would you change that?
By changing the name.
Change the name.
Search and replace.
Right,
I'm
and
not Mr. T.
not actually. There we go. Tools.
I think it's
Or wouldn't that be? All right.
edit, maybe.
Edit.
Oh, it is under
Yeah,
refactor.
I think refactor,
There's right click the name.
or you can do that. Yep.
Print physbus. Factor.
Rename.
And rename. So, there we go. Return physbus.
Ta-da! Awesome. Okay. Cool. Any other feedback for these guys? Nope. Probably time for a break again. So let's take another 10 minutes, and we'll come back and let's do some more pairing. Thank you very much to those of you guys that had like the fortitude to like put your cut up in front of people. It's not something that we're used to doing, is it? No more full screen. Okay. So, where are we at? Does anybody want to share what they've done? No. That's cool. What have we learned? What did you guys learn? Test-driven development is really slow. It's an interesting observation. How is it? Okay. So on the front end, and then yeah.
Because like what we've been doing since the last break was refactoring, and now that's going really fast compared to how my old coding style without all that tests.
Okay, so like testing up front, and then gives you more confidence, so you can refactor and change things later on. Okay, yeah.
I learned I have to use that experience.
So pairing catches bugs. Pairing, yeah. Yep.
I think the approach to the way to programming is interesting, especially about writing a test before you had anything to test. So that idea, the kind of the approach is different than what I did in my. I mean, before it was okay, write a function and test it, and so now it's just.
Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, validating assumptions through code. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Yeah. Oh, harder to write the test than let's write the actual code. What does that mean? Smaller breakdown of tests maybe will help. What was that? Yeah, can I say that?
I think it's more like the same
Okay, it's getting used to the code, the ham crest, and the. Okay. How about you guys? What do you think? Mm-hmm. Interesting. When you guys do your projects, You going to do a test driven, or going to do it the way you're used to, or what do you think? Is it both? Yeah.
Well, we'll start test driven, and then as it gets closer.
Yeah. Once you see that light at the end of the tunnel, you're like, oh, I just want to get it done. It's been 4 hours. Okay. Cool. This is an experiment. It's like, you know, and from my own experience, yeah, it seems really slow at first. And it's like you get all these pieces, parts. And I think almost, you know, it's funny because I almost feel like I'm being lazy because it's like I should just go write all the code, but yet I'm just like, oh, okay, well, I'll see where the code goes, and I'll just try to write the tests. But I think in every case when I get to the end, well, I guess that's the thing. The thing about test-driven development is that you know when you're done. When you can't think of any more tests to write, and all your code is refactored, like you're done. You can walk away. Before that, I was always like, oh, maybe there's something that I missed, or you know, oh gosh, you know, did I really get all of it? And I guess one of the things that I like about TDD is that not only do you have all these checkpoints along the way, not only can you sort of see the evolution of your code, but you know when you're done. And it's like, hey, great, I've got 30 test cases that are passing, and you know what? This is solid. I've proven that it's solid. It's ready to turn in. I feel confident I'm going to get an A. So anyway, cool. Okay. Do you want to do this again next week with a different kata? Is this like compelling? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, okay, that's a very good thing. So, let's take a couple minutes to talk about that. So, when I interview people for engineering positions, there's I use a style of interviewing called behavioral interviewing, meaning that I don't want theoretical answers. I want experiential answers. So all my interview questions are along the lines of, tell me about a time when you had to collaborate with someone else on a project, had a conflict with someone else while trying to make a decision, or had, tell me about a decision that you made that turned out to not be so good. And that's the soft skills. On the hard skills, it's like, write me some code. Don't get up to the whiteboard and sketch it out. Don't pseudocode it. No, I want to see how you code. And even for new college graduates, right, I want to see how you guys can code. And so then, like, good companies that care about your ability to code will make you do this kind of stuff. I mean, hopefully not in front of a whole room of engineers. That's nerve-wracking. That's me. Certainly, okay, the interview's tomorrow. Here's like the assignment. Submit what you've done. And let me tell you, if you go in there and you start with test-driven development, they'll be like, yeah, this guy, or girl, gal knows what they're doing. And it shows that you're methodical. So, and that you've heard of this, because ask your peers. I think very few undergraduates have had the opportunity or had an experience of sort of experimenting with this. So I wanted to give it to you because I think it's something that it's what was starting to be expected of software engineers. Okay, cool. Well, we'll do some more next week and see how it goes. To end off with, I just wanted to talk about Project 3. Okay, so in the next phase of our project, we are going to be 3D printing the airline. So in addition to being able to read and write from a text file, we're going to be sorting the flights in our airlines, and we're also going to be formatting them nicely and 3D printing them to standard out or to a file. And what this this phase of the project exercises is Java facilities for sorting and working with dates. So if you go and view the online lectures of the Java util classes and learning about the date class and learning about how to do like nice string formatting, date formatting, things like that, you'll have what you need to do this project. So there are a couple things that you'll need to do here. Augment the get arrival and get departure methods of the flight class. Right now they return null. Well, they should return instead an instance of Java util date. So the departure and arrival time should be represented as a date. And also, you'll need to change the implementation, or I'd like you to change the implementation of get arrival string, get departure string, to format those dates using dateformat.short. So go read up on what all that means. Also, new requirement for how the flights should be stored. They should be sorted alphabetically. First alphabetically by the code of the source, so the airport code of their source. If you have flights that depart from the same airport, they should be sorted chronologically by their departure time. And then if you've got, if you have flights that depart from the same airport at the same time, those are considered equal. And so to facilitate this, I recommend that your flight class implement the comparable interface. Comparable is an interface that allows you to compare yourself, an object to another object. And by compare, not just for equality, but for order. Let's write a new class called Pretty Printer, which is another kind of airline dumper, right? So there was the text dumper, which is an airline dumper, but there's also a Pretty Printer that implements that same interface. And what it does is it prints it in a nicely formatted presentation that should be readable by a human. So where text dumper was something that can be read by your program, Pretty Printer should be readable by a human. I recommend things like date format to make your dates look nice. And there's also a class that I wrote called Airport Names that gives you the name of a city for an airport code. And Pretty Printer should also include the duration of the flight in minutes. So a little bit of math for you to do with the dates. This is all driven by a Project 3 main class, and there is a new command line argument called -pretty, and it takes an argument called file. So if you have like -pretty, pretty.txt, that should print pretty print the airline's flights, or the airline and its flights, to a text file. Or if the file is dash, for you Unix fans out there, you should print it to standard out. So your Pretty Printer should be able to print to either a file or to standard out. Or in Canada, standard out. Anyway. Or in Eastern Canada, standard out. Anyway. I went to Toronto, and the Canadian accent is different in Toronto than it is, say, in Vancouver. Anyway. Sorry, it's getting late. I'm making Canada references. Just a couple of notes here. The three-letter airport codes going to the command line should be case insensitive, so it can do uppercase or lowercase. And that the airline should be pretty printed after the new flight has been added. So let's say there are already 3 in the file, add the new one, pretty print all 4. The new requirement, the date and time format on the command line, no longer 24-hour time. Now we've changed to AM, PM. Because why not? More to test. And that's it. And all the same error reporting as before. Oh, looks like I have a big blank line there. That's weird. And exit gracefully. All the same kind of error conditions as before. So if your command line screwed up, if the format of the daytime is wrong, or if this is a new requirement, I think the three-letter code does not correspond to a known airport. So if it's not in that airline names, that should be an error. Question.
In terms of calculating the time of the flight, is that absolute time? Because
the duration?
We discussed duration.
Yeah.
We discussed, I think, on the forum that if it was like, if the arrival was after or before the departure, maybe the time zone. So
don't worry about that detail. So yes, let's pretend that we're all in the same time zone. Yes, these are just north-south flights. But yes, don't worry about time zones. And with regards to like if the departure time, sorry, if the arrival time is before the departure time, that's not something I'm going to test. So you can allow that, or you can throw an error. I'm not going to test that. Or negative number. You go back in time. You're in the DeLorean. 1.21. Yeah. So there, I have a class. Let's see if I can find it here. Code. Is there a way to like? There's a way to browse the code. There's a quickly jump between files, and I can say airport names. There you go. Oh, I'm sorry. So here I have this big long list of airport names. So if it's not one of these dudes, it's an error. Gotcha? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I recommend, and I think it was really reinforced to me again in that TDD bonus screencast that I did, is that ultimately it's better to start with testing like the methods of your objects instead of the main method. The main method, is sort of like the last thing that you test. So I know we were all taught it's like you start at main and then you do this, top-down functional decomposition, right? This is how we wrote Pascal back in 1973. And with test-driven development, you sort of starting at the top, you need to worry about all this stuff at the top if you do it that way. So then, what I recommend is that you sort of start from the logic, which is probably closer to the middle of your code, and work your way out. Because like if you verified that like the core logic of your program works, then everything else is just sort of like different. And you saw us tonight, right? Where I think some people started like, great, I know how to use invoke main. Dave's been talking about it for 2 weeks. It must be the right thing. Oh, sorry. It started there, and then people were worried about, gosh, system.exit and things like that. It's like, well, that's not really the core to your program. The core to the kata was the fizz buzz, and so then I think that's where a lot of people got to, where they're like, oh, what I really need out of this, forget about printing out the standard out or anything. I just need a function that takes an integer and returns a string, which is either like that number or fizz or buzz. So that's where I recommend that you start. I recommend that you start with sort of with the logic, which, for instance, here might be something like how your flights are sorted, something like that, or calculating the duration of a flight. Write little unit tests for that, and then build out from there, and you'll have things like your main method that calls those guys. And stuff like that. And if you keep all of like the lower level unit tests green, then as you add more integration tests, which are like calling invoke main and stuff like that, it'll all be green, and you'll know that you're building on top of something solid. Make sense? Okay. Good. Okay. It's due 2 weeks from tonight. Any other questions before we adjourn? If not, thank you very much. Hope you had a good time tonight, and we'll do more of it next week. Oh, please return the keyboards if you could. Wrap up the cords, put the little twist tie on them, put it back in the protective sleeve and in the box, and we'll see you on the forum.
I'm going to be in Mexico.